welcome back to my channel. My name is Carly Stevens. I'm a teacher and author, and this is English Nerd. Today I wanted to share with you 5 books that have changed the way I think. Now, there are lots of other classics that are on my TBR, on my to be read list that I anticipate would also fall into this category, but generally when I recommend books on this channel, I want it to be books that I have personally read and can attest to, so that is going to be the case here. So I have 5 books came to mind when I thought, what are some classics that have changed the way that I think about something? So there are lots of options. I could have talked about 1984 or Fahrenheit 451 or some of these others, but I've chosen 5 that might be a little bit more off the beaten path. They're not super unusual, they are classics, but yeah, so let's see what you think about this list. And please do feel free at the bottom to add some books that have changed the way you think, and maybe ones that should that would belong in a longer version of this list, and maybe I'll add them to my to be read list if I haven't read them myself. Okay, so number 1 in no particular order is The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupery, which I've talked about on this channel a bit. It is ostensibly a children's book. However, as a child, I don't think I would have liked it. I think I would have found it very random because it is. But as an adult, it has just been a game changer. There is a chapter between the little prince and a fox that is so moving because of the underlying ideas. So the thread that really makes all of this randomness hang together is that everything essential is invisible to the eye. And it makes such a beautiful, haunting case for that idea that it is something that has changed the way that I look at my life. So, and it's also more uplifting in a lot of ways than some of the other works on this list. So notably, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley is a soul-crushing kind of dystopian book. It's about pleasure and how that can make life kind of meaningless, but then it's counterposed against somebody who's all about culture and some of those things that you would expect would be able to rectify this really messed up world, and yet it is not really the answer either. So something I don't love about Brave New World is that we don't get a sort of recommendation for how to help some of the evils that are highlighted in this story, but it definitely is food for thought. It's a story that sticks with you. It's something that does make you think really deeply about some of the evils in society and what could be done to improve people, or are we just doomed? Hopefully that's not the final word. I like the final word to be hope, even if it's hope in a deep, dark, seemingly hopeless place. But yeah, if you haven't read Brave New World, it is tough in places, so just be prepared for some difficult ideas and content, but yeah, definitely one that will make you rethink a lot of things. Okay, next up, this should come as no surprise. This is one of my favorite books of all time, Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I have this lovely special edition. So Crime and Punishment is a psychological thriller, basically, about somebody who commits an atrocious crime. We're inside his head most of the time, and it is so brilliantly written. It's like I'm jealous of Dostoevsky and his ability to not only understand human nature and the complexities of it, but to convey that in a story form. So whether you're a reader or a writer, reading Crime and Punishment for not only the deep ideas about crime and punishment and human nature, but to see how character can be done in a way that is so compelling and so realistic. It goes beyond most fiction that I have ever read. I mean, I've done a separate video about the best character development that I've ever seen. Crime and Punishment very easily makes that list. So yeah, it's thoughtful, it's terrible, and it's incredible if you stick with it. So yeah, highly recommend. The title does not do it justice. If this looks big and intimidating, just give it a shot. Read the first chapter and you'll probably be sucked in. All right, next up, I have one that's pretty unconventional here, and it's The Stones of Venice by John Ruskin. I've read a big section of this. I have not read it cover to cover, full disclosure, but The Stones of Venice has a section about Gothic architecture, and you'd think, okay, who cares about Gothic architecture? The conclusion, the argument and the conclusion and the beautiful prose that John Ruskin uses to describe not only the attributes of Gothic architecture, but about what that says about the culture that created that culture, and how that can be contrasted to, you know, our culture today, and how our kind of architecture not being as mad and as creative and all of that, what it says about us. I mean, he goes down these incredible pathways to ultimately asking, what does it mean to acknowledge humanity in what we create and what we consume? And it doesn't feel preachy, you know, that could come across as very preachy, but it's just incredibly compelling. It makes you really think about where your things come from and what those things say about the people behind them. So it's the section that I read, it was like 20 pages maybe. I don't think the entire work is all that long, but I would definitely recommend it. It sounds like it would be dry, but John Ruskin has such a way with words that it actually ends up being really beautiful. So yeah, give Stones of Venice by John Ruskin a try. And then finally, The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. I don't own that one. I own another book by him, but it is the story of an English butler, and he is basically looking back on his life and his life's work, and how his employer ended up being a sympathizer during the 1930s and 40s with a certain German faction of radicals. And you know, what does that mean for him? But perhaps even more importantly, in his story, he thinks back to a co-worker that he served with and fell in love with, and never did anything about. He never told her how he felt. He never acted on any of his feelings, and he lives, you can tell, with this incredible regret about that. But he's the consummate professional throughout the entire thing, so much so that at times you're like, okay, get to the point, stop using this language that's so professional and just be a person. But it's this it really does make you think about what it means to live fully, both in a work sense, like who are you supporting, who are you working for, what does that mean, what does it mean to be good in that kind of environment, and then how do you live your life without regrets, what's truly important in a personal sense as well. So it's a pretty heartbreaking book, but it's fairly short, and definitely worth a read if what I've described sounds interesting to you. So yeah, those are 5 books that I think will change the way you think. Lots of other books could belong in a longer list, but we're just going to stick with 5 today. So like this video, if you like it, make sure to subscribe for more English nerdy goodness, hit that notification button, and I'll see you next week with more literature and writing advice. Bye.